I really think we need to say that the Vita was almost perfect. And I say almost for quite a few reasons. So this comes up because I'm about to go away on a trip, and I'm actually thinking about what I want to play and how I want to play it all the time when I'm on the move. This is an important thing. It's a difficult thing to do. I mean, it used to be. Today is a little bit easier. Wait, not an ad, I promise. Racing Game Awards. The vote is now live. Check the link in the description. Join, stream soon. I appreciate it. Thank you. Bless up. With the PS Vita, that kind of reignited my want for that type of console, especially when it came out and, you know, Sony didn't really support it in the way that we would have hoped, that we ended up having to, you know, make it work ourselves. But like, look at these things. The form factor is genuinely spot on. If anything, I kind of prefer the original one. This is not my original one. Sadly, I sold that because I was, you know, I had no money. I bought the second one because it's a Japanese special exclusive color or something. It's super, super cool. It's a little bit thinner. I never tried the newer model of it, so I purchased this one and ultimately modded it. Got it running my favorite PSP and, of course, Vita games. And then I ran into the situation of where I want to play more than those games. Look, I played a hell of a lot of PSP. If you look at the state of my PSP, it becomes pretty obvious that, yes, I definitely put some time into it. The PSP, again, fantastic device. Absolutely love it. But if you're going to tell me I can get a device that's a little bit cooler, 2 analog sticks, thinner, plays more games, for example, I'm going to go and get something like this. And so the Vita, I really wish that Sony had put the effort in to make this what it could have been. I mean, look at the Switch. For God's sake, PlayStation, how did you not manage to do that yourself? But as I said, I kind of wanted more. And then birthed the Steam Deck. And I think this essentially birthed a subcategory of these portable devices. I mean, they were already a thing. You could already have bought, I mean, GPD had 3 versions of theirs at that point, but ultimately Steam kind of normalized, brought it to the masses. The fact that Steam made a device like this that allows you to play, not only emulate, you know, those older games that you'd like, you can actually play PC quality titles on there. PC level stuff, which is just mental. The problem is, I actually didn't get a whole lot of use out of the Steam Deck. Although it is a great device, and I will absolutely recommend this to everyone. The price is insane at like, what, £350, like $400, something like that. It is an incredible steal to have PC hardware in here that you can play games on for an hour or 2 if you're playing high-end stuff, and, you know, more if you're playing lower-end stuff. But the problem is, when this came out, I live at my own house. I have access to my TV, and realistically, a device this big is only really worth keeping hold of and having if someone else is using the TV. In pretty much every case, like say Meadow wants to watch something different, she can use her laptop and plug her headphones in, or I'm playing games and she's watching TV. And by that, I mean I'm playing games on like a laptop or something. It just was a device that didn't really seem to fit into my life, and I couldn't really put my finger on as to why this portable of portables for incredible price wasn't really fitting in with what I wanted, my gaming situation. And what it came down to is the size. I looked back at a bunch of the older hardware. Hell, even looking at the PSP, the Game Boys, and even my Vita, getting my Vita, and kind of unique situation really, because when I got my Vita, I was living in London where I used a lot of public transportation. I used the train a heck of a lot. I used the bus a heck of a lot. And you had around, you know, 20, 25 minutes, something like that amount of time in where you wanted a device that you could just shove in your pocket and keep away. And that is super, super important to me for these handheld devices. On the Steam Deck, I had a little discussion on Twitter. I gave my opinion, whether you agree or disagree. I found some really incredible stuff from you guys explaining kind of my thought process this whole time. The Steam Deck is not a portable, it's a transportable device. And that just completely blew my mind a little bit, because I was like, yeah, it's a device to use that you use at home and then you use away from home, as in at the hotel, at the wherever you're going, the destination unless you're being driven. But I'm not being driven. I'm doing the driving. In a case of where it was on the train, I could take a bag, but I'm just going out for the day. Why do I need a full bag just to take this? And it's just convoluted. It's not what I'm after. It's not the experience I'm after. So I thought ultimately this will all be solved, all of it, by one thing. That brings us on to this, the GPD Win 4. Probably my favorite device of the ones I have. Really sick device. Full keyboard opened out. Again, not as good as a full-on physical keyboard. Quite significantly smaller than the Steam Deck. Quite thick and chunky. But it still fits in my pocket. Now, you absolutely feel it. You'll need a belt. But a smaller device that is more powerful than the Steam Deck, to the point it can run PlayStation 3 games, for God's sake. PlayStation 3. I'm not saying it runs them fantastically. For example, Killzone is just a terrible experience, even on like high-end PC hardware. But they are a playable state. You can play them and enjoy them, and you can enjoy them for a little bit longer than the Steam Deck. Again, to be clear, the device does cost more. It is not as affordable, it's not as cheap as the Steam Deck, and that again is one of the reasons that device is so amazing. The value is crazy, but of course they can make some money back based on the games you're inevitably going to buy on their store, and then they get 20% of your purchase. And of course, if you're just going to make the cash, it just makes sense. Whereas GPD, for example, they don't sell games, and if they do, I've never heard of them. So I can emulate everything: PS1, PS2, PSP, PS3, whatever the hell I want to. I can play PC games natively on it. There's even x86 translation games built for Windows of PS2 games. For example, it's the Jack games. Jack 1 and 2 are done. Jack 3 is being worked on. This is amazing to find. This project, by the way, is called Open Goal. If you love the Jack series, this is the way to go. I've now got 4K textures running on Jack 1, and the game runs so incredibly. I just can't believe it. And I'm playing it on this. I can genuinely, honestly, this is something that people say that they do often, like plug their Steam Deck into their TV and play their games. You don't do that. It's going to look rubbish. I can run Jack at 4K on this 60 FPS plus, to the point I plug this into my OLED and play it on there just to not bother having to copy saves across and things like that. It's genuinely worth doing. Powerful, powerful device, but we come back to one huge issue. Obviously, it's still quite a heavy device, but it loops back to the battery issue. Yes, it's portable. It's more portable now, but it's still not amazing in terms of actually being able to use it for extended periods of time. But it also brings in another issue, which I didn't really expect. So on Windows, I mean, it's Windows. It's not built software for these portable devices, unlike the Steam Deck, which has its own OS and you can put it in sleep. Yeah. You know where I'm going with this. Windows Sleep, if I'm mid-game and I press the sleep button and I open it back up, it's probably going to crash. It's probably not going to work. It's probably going to have to fight me to act. Sometimes I'll even have to hold the power button, restart Windows, and that's a convoluted process that just isn't enjoyable. Of course, I could just put it into sleep mode once I've quit the game, which is what I do, but that still then makes the process a little bit more complicated. There's certain games, therefore, then, that I play on this device. Say I've got an hour on a train, I absolutely will play on this. But if I'm jumping on the tube and I've got a 5-minute trip from here to here, and most phone games, for example, don't work without internet, I need something to fill that gap. Something for those quick trips that's smaller, fits in my pocket, the battery life is better. And that's where this comes in. My newest portable, the OYN Odin 2 Mini. Now, I know a lot of people, in case you don't know, there's actually 2 versions of this. You can get a full-size one, or you can get the smaller mini version of it. You actually get a smaller battery for this device, but as you can tell, it looks, you might be able to tell I quite like the Vita / PSP look. It looks the bollocks. I love the look of this thing. It looks like a Vita. It has the patterns of a Vita on the back. It's got the indents. It even has like access so you can play those Vita games with those as you wish. Oh yeah, it plays Vita games. It plays PSP games. It plays PS1, PS2 games. It can even play some Switch games. Not that I've actually tried, Nintendo. And another advantage is I've actually been replaying a lot of DS games, and ultimately the DS needs touchscreen. The GPD has touchscreen, but Windows input of screens is a little bit delayed. There's less latency when I'm playing on this screen. So practically every single thing that I want to play quickly on this works on this. I've also installed this really cool Android launcher that literally makes it look like the bubbles on the Vita, which I love. I don't actually use this. I just kind of use like the grid. That's like so much better. It's just so much better. Shove an SD card in here and you have got gaming forever. And it fixes the issue of the sleep mode. I can mid-game, whatever game I'm playing, press sleep because it's made to be like an Android device. It does the sleep like a phone does rather than a Windows machine where it just shuts off. So I can play GameCube games, I can play PS2, PS Vita, all of those games are playable, but at the same time, I can play Android games, and there's quite a lot that you can play available offline. San Andreas, they have the full version of San Andreas with the new textures and things like that available on Android. Again, not just San Andreas, but GTA 3, GTA Vice City, and the lot. You can play those. I just can't believe that it's only a little bit bigger, but it can play how much? It has proper triggers on the back, and of course the best bit, folks, look at this. Look, it's in my pocket. Amazing. Oh my god, this is honestly such an incredible device. I love it to the moon and back, and it's actually, well, about half the price of the GPD. It's quite expensive if you don't have a Steam Deck. It's probably, again, a supplementary device. It doesn't make sense to have something like this unless you have a main x86 based piece of hardware as well, in my opinion. I want to give an honorable mention to this. This is the Miu Mini, and it's the original size one with like the absolutely tiny screen. It is so sick. It plays Game Boy, PS1, and things like that. It's one of those, I hate to admit it, but it is incredibly too small to play for long sessions. It's really cool to like throw in your bag and be like, oh, I want to play games, but I don't want to play them on my phone. I've got my, you know, they are really incredible, but, you know, if I want to play a comfortable experience, I need something in the middle, and that's where this comes in. I don't think I have played this much like PS2 and stuff in a long time. It's perfect. It is solid. I have no complaints about this device other than it doesn't have PlayStation buttons, but, you know, there's definitely a reason for that. It just runs native Android, so I can run a load of apps. For example, synchronizing my save games, synchronizing my actual games. So I think with these two devices, I practically do everything I need. We are incredible. It feels like we get closer and closer to the ultimate goal, which I guess that's a good point to get to. What is the ultimate goal here? What is my ultimate want for a portable device? I mean, it's pretty obvious that I clearly want it to look like a Vita. The trade-off with having the Android device is playing PC games. It's getting early stages to the point where we can play some, which is amazing, but I think we need a mainstream push. For example, all the laptops that you would go out and purchase today would highly recommend going ARM just for the sake of the battery life, the efficiency, unless you're doing gaming, of course. But it's going to get to a point where all laptops are ARM, and I think the translation layers are going to get so good. We kind of got to wait for the consoles to switch to ARM as well. I mean, the Switch 2 is going to be ARM. But I think even if we do get to the point where everything, absolutely everything could run on my trusty PS Vita. I love the sticks being on the bottom. That's a little gripe I have with most devices. I don't like the... Even if we get to a point where AAA experiences are playable on the train and the sleep function issue is no more and it's pocketable and all of my boxes are ticked, I think we loop back to, in my opinion, why the Vita failed. This, you know, you could play into multiple routes. You could say, oh, it was the proprietary memory cards. It was just incredibly expensive. It was the lack of games. There are many fingers that you could point, but I personally feel, and this is something that I think Nintendo dominated mostly as with the previous hardware, and still, no, even to this day, dominates, is they create games knowing the situation that they're going to be played in. The Vita did its absolute best to try and be a home console experience on the go. And although that is something that I think should have been tested and needed to be tested, I find myself more enjoying the PSP experience because most of those games were bite-sized, smaller, compromised builds of games dedicated for that handheld experience. I'm on the train, I've got 5 minutes. I'm on the bus. My next stop is coming. I need to kind of half pay attention. I don't want fully all my games to have these rich AAA story-driven experiences when ultimately what I'm mostly going to be doing is playing for 5 minutes, putting it to sleep, throwing it in my pocket, bring it back out. So games, for example, like Pokemon are perfect for this because there's no immediate danger. Like I can even mid-battle just pause and get on with what I was doing and then come back to it and be like, oh yeah, I was in the middle of a battle. Whereas they tried to do a resistance game on the Vita, which just I haven't even still to this day really found the time to play because it's not really a game I want to play at home. It's not my type of game, but at the same rate, it's not the type of game that I want to play on the go. It didn't really find somewhere to be, which I will play that game because I love Resistance. I've played all the mainline games, so fantastic. Some of Insomniac's best work. I think if we get another PlayStation Portable, it needs to look at the PSP and what made it work so well. Even with a disc, you could do the sleep, which is so crazy to me. Anyway, you may disagree. Let me know down in the comments. I could just, oh my god, I love playing my Cyberpunk while I'm on the toilet for 5 minutes and then putting it to sleep and then coming back to it. Great! Oh, that's amazing! I personally, I'm quite the opposite. I like my smaller bite-sized games for the go. Are games too big? Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this. A little bit of a different video, but this is something that I'm really interested in. It's gaming related. I play a lot of racing games, retro racing games, and yeah, just wanted to share what my perspective on all this is because it's proper interesting. Chill out. Don't go buying all this stuff. I'm not suggesting it. Play at home. Play on your phone. I could make a video about why I don't do that. Video. Don't know what it is, but it's something.